Hi everybody and welcome to my studio today. My name is Lonna Lamb and I want to welcome you to my studio and thanks for coming along to paint with me. Today we're going to be painting a project that is a winter themed project. I have titled this Winter Wonderland. We have this great big huge ornament that has a smaller ornament painted inside of it. And I think this turned out so good. The background, I love the background. I think it turned out beautiful, and you can just really make the background effect more than what I did. But it's a pretty easy background to make. And then of course we have this really cute glass ornament hanging from our tree with a winter scene inside of it. I just think it is the cutest thing ever. And the surface is available from my website if you are interested in the surface, but of course you can paint it on anything that you like. I think this is going to be a relaxing one to paint, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So let's turn around to my paint table. It's right over there, and let's get started, everybody. Okay, we're going to begin getting this surface prepped. This is my oval ornament plaque from my website, lonnalamb.com, and I am going to apply a coat on both sides because I'm going to finish both sides of multi-purpose sealer first. I'm going to use a damp roller, so I'm going to submerge my roller in my water basin. Squeeze out the excess water. You want to have clean water when you do this. Okay, now I'm going to squeeze all of the excess water out on my paper towel. We only want the roller or the sponge, whatever we're using, to be damp. We don't want it to be full of water. Water will do two things. It will thin your paint and it will cause a lot of bubbles in your whatever you're painting. So we don't want that. We only want it damp so we can help move the product, the paint, whatever you're using, so the roller won't, or the sponge won't absorb it and not release it. It needs that moisture in there so it's full of the water first and it doesn't fill up with our product, so it will release it when we use it. It's important to dampen and squeeze out the excess. So it's super fast. This will dry very quick. We're putting a nice thin coat on here with our roller. And I'm going to get that dry. I'm going to flip over the other side, and I'm also going to do the edges because I'm going to paint it all when I get ready to put my base coat on. Okay, I've got both my sides done and it's dry. I'm just going to very lightly sand it. Just lightly. Don't get carried away there. Okay, so now I'm going to use the same roller, and I want to paint the background. I'm not even going to wash the roller out. You don't need to wash it. The multi-purpose sealer works beautifully along with the paint. Actually, you can blend your base coat with multi-purpose sealer, but I tend to not do that. Other artists do. They mix their multi-purpose sealer in with their base coat. So I'm not going to worry about having it in my roller because it's going to be just fine. So I want to apply a nice coat of Hauser dark green on here. And I will let it dry and apply a second coat. Let that dry and do the other side. Now you can paint the other side any color you want. You could actually save the other side and paint a completely different design on it. Totally up to you. Right now I'm going to concentrate on this side so I can have it done, and I may save the other side for another design sometime, but this is the side that I'm going to concentrate on right now. So I want my first coat of paint to dry. I'm just going to set it on my paper plate and put a lid on there to hold it on there to keep the air off of it. And once it gets dry, I'm going to apply a second coat. And while it's wet, we're going to do some stippling. So you'll need to have, when we come back, a stippling sponge of some kind. You can use a sea sponge. This is the kind that I like to use. I feel like I get a little bit more control out of it. And it will need to be damp when we get ready to use it, so you'll dampen it the same way. Fill it with nice clean water, wring it out, put it in a paper towel, and get all the excess moisture out. You just want it to be slightly damp, okay? So that's what we're going to do when we come back. Okay, we're pretty dry here. I'm going to give it just a very light sanding here. And now I'm going to dampen my sponge because we're going to need it pretty quickly. So into the nice clean water, wring it out. I'm going to grab a dry paper towel and wring out the excess moisture. I just hold it there. I can feel the water wicking out of the sponge into the paper towel. So now it's damp. So let's apply a second coat on here. You don't have to worry so much about the topper up here because we're going to be painting it a completely different color, but instead of trying to avoid it, I'm just going to paint it so that it's okay. Now I want to put this roll, I'm done with the roller, I'm going to drop it into my water basin off of the end so that the paint doesn't dry in it. And I'm going to grab some leaf green and put that on my palette. And I'll probably put a little bit more of the Hauser on there just in case I need a little bit. I think I have something in it. Looks like a big glob of something there. Alright, I'm going to grab my sponge, okay? I'm going to fold it up kind of like this into a little ball. And I'm going to grab some of the leaf green and some of the Hauser dark green. Okay, the Hauser dark green is just to help me blend it out a little bit. And I want to start tapping this into the center. And just blending it out. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that green, that dark green. I want to break it up a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of a glare here. But we want to keep most of the light color into the center and let it just kind of fade away as it comes out. Now I've done this before with other colors. I did a winter scene where I did this with some blues, so this is very, very similar, or actually it's exactly like that one. And those greens are really nice in there. I like that light green in there. I'm just going to add a little bit more. And then I tap the light green in, then I go over to the base coat green and very softly tap that and blend it. I don't want it to disappear down into that background or become a muddy mess. I still want it to stay on top of that dark color. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good right there. I think I'm going to leave it right there. It's a very simple, quick background where you just get this beautiful modeling in the background, and it's gorgeous. Now I'm going to let it dry. If I feel like all that bright green fades away, I'll do this layer again. Okay, I'm applying a second coat because I wanted it a little bit brighter here in the center. Now to do your second coat, you're going to do it the same way, but because your paint is dry and we needed that paint to be a little bit wet so that we could apply this, you're going to want to take a misting bottle and spritz your surface and get it lightly wet. That way when you go to add another layer, you have a little bit of moisture in there to be able to work the paint. Otherwise the paint's just going to stick on there and you won't be happy. Okay, so that's 2 layers on mine. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's going to be great. And I wanted it to be just a touch brighter here in the center, and so it is brighter now, and I like that. So I'm going to get this dry, and I'm going to get some basic pattern lines transferred on here. Okay, my background is dry, and I transferred on a shape that I'm going to paint on here, but nothing else is transferred on because I am actually designing it right on camera, so I don't really know what the pattern's going to look like yet. I just know that I want this ornament right here, and so we're going to start creating this design. So I want a tree limb to come through here. And so I'm going to start with the color Sable Brown. All my paints will be DecoArt Americana paints. You feel free to use whatever paints that you have and mix the colors that appeal to you. So we're going to start with this one. Grab my paper towel and get it in place. And get my paintbrushes over here. Okay, I just want a flat brush that I can paint a nice branch in with. So I'm going to use a 12 flat. I'm waking it up in my water. If you've watched any of my other videos, you must wake your brushes up so they will work for you. If your bristles aren't awake, it's not going to work. It's kind of like the sponge. If you don't dampen it first, it's just going to soak up all of the paint and it's not going to release it. Same with your brush. If the brushes aren't conditioned, woke up with the water, it won't release the paint. Okay. And then I'm going to spritz the edge of my palette. My palette here is a peel and stick palette, but I always put Glad Press and Seal over it so I can peel it off and just throw it away. The paint would peel off of the surface just fine, but to me this is a little bit quicker. And I like this one that has the tray in the top of it like this, and you can get this at Dick Blick, I believe. Dick Blick. It is a Freddie Weber palette. Okay, so I just want to paint in where I want some branches to be. So I know I want a big one that's going to be coming off here. I'm going to make it fatter, but I'm just kind of giving myself a guideline here, and it's going to come down this way because this ornament's going to hang over this particular one. So I'm going to fatten up my branch. I want to make it a nice chunky little branch back here where it's coming from the tree. And I will let it just kind of go down like that. Easy peasy. Need to be a little bit fatter through here. And don't make it straight. Give it a little bit of movement to it. So I want a second branch coming down off of it, maybe right here. Let's just make it there. Let's just say that's where it's going to be. I got a little buildup of paint right there. I don't really like that. Don't like my paint to be thick on the edges, so I'm going to mix a little bit of water in with it so it paints out a little bit smoother. Okay, we'll come in with a round brush and add better lines and detail it out a little bit more. I want one that's going to come up here, and we'll have some branches coming off of that one. And I want one that's going to come behind our ornament and come out over here. Okay, and I think I will have one right here. Okay, so that's just our basic kind of roughing in where we're putting our branches. Yours will be a pattern that you can follow, so feel free to follow the pattern. Adjust it to what pleases you. I'm just putting a quick little second coat in here. this one to be a little bit more curved back here. And I know I just kind of let it go straight and just be done, but when I come in with my round brush, I'll add more details to these branches. Right now I'm trying to decide if I want to bring a second branch coming up this way and maybe just have a little bit of it coming off, because I have an awful big open space here. So I think that I will bring in a second little bough of branches and just have it cross over this one, give it some interest here. And then maybe have one coming off of it like this. I may not give this one too many more branches, maybe one that's coming from back here off of it. Okay, so that's our branches. I know we're in the ugly stages. Ugly stages are very hard to get through, but we got to get through them. So let me go to a round brush, see if I can find one that has a good round, give me the kind of tip that I want. And now I'm going to start taking those out, adding some smaller stuff coming off of it, being a little bit more creative with how it looks. We're going to be putting some pine needles on this and some berries, so it's going to be really fun when it's done. Okay, so just have some fun with it. It's your tree limb. It can do whatever you want it to do, or you can follow the pattern exactly. Generally, you want to make Ys wherever you're putting a limb. This one's going to come up and kind of come across here. I'm just staying up on the tip of the brush so I can get these nice thin lines on here. Let's get one coming down here. And a little bit more water in my brush. We've got this one coming off here, and we can have it do that thing. And then this one, I'll just have it come across like this. And then this one can come down. And then let's finish this one out. Some of this we may not even see when we're completely done here, but we've got it ready to go, okay? So this is our beginning of our tree branches with our pine needles. We're going to finish up the tree branches. The tree branches really will take no time at all. There's not a lot to them. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to them to add more and more detail and layer upon layer, but we're going to keep it a little bit simple. I really want the focal point to be this ornament right here when we're done. Okay, we're going to add some little details into our branch here. Now I've added on my palette some toffee and some asphaltum. So I think I might get just a smaller round brush here. We're going to make some little character lines, I guess, in our branches. So I'm going to take some of this toffee. Let me zoom in just a little bit. And hopefully I'll keep you on camera. Wow, just a touch. And we're just going to start creating some little lines and stuff in our tree branch. Give it some cracks and details. You know, they don't have to be straight. They can be little squiggle lines. And we want to keep them fairly thin. That one's a little fat, but I can work with it. And we want to stay in mostly the fatter areas of our branches. Now right here we have to determine which branch is on top. Is this one on top or is this one on top? Okay, I think I want the main branch, which is this one, to be on top. So this will be under this one, and it will be under this one. Okay, so I'm going to go right over that so I can remember which one is on top. So just a few little drag lines is what I call them, you know, because I'm just skimming the brush across the tree limb. We'll do this one as well. And a little bit coming up here. Let's do this one. Okay, again, this one will be on top. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about some of these thinner ones because they're going to have pine needles on them, so I don't want to worry too much about them. Do the same thing with some asphaltum here. A few of these. Kind of streaky lines going through it. All these details matter, so asphaltum is a little bit more of a transparent color, so it's going to fade down in there just a little bit and be beautiful. I think that's looking nice. Okay, let's start adding some shading on our branches. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to take my asphaltum and I'm going to side load for a float. Got a lot of water in my brush, so I'm going to touch it to my paper towel. And I'm using a curved flat brush. It's a soft curve. I get it from the Brush Guys. This one is a size 12. I haven't used one for a while because I switched over to flat brushes when I couldn't get curved brushes for a while. So we'll see if I can work this one out. I used to use it all the time. So we're going to go along the bottom with this asphaltum. So I want this branch to be connected. So we'll darken up that lower edge. I'm going to tilt the brush and come along this edge. Be up on the little toe of the brush right there. I'm going to put a little bit on these thinner limbs out here. But if we have to come back to them after we add pine needles, we can add onto that. So I'm going to continue on down I'm going to go around that one because it's kind of connected there. And you can choose however you laid yours out, but if you did it just like the pattern, I'm going to have this one also be on top, but this one's going to be behind. So I'm just going to go right over that. And bring that down. And again, I'm going to get up on the tip of the brush and just skim that across that edge. Okay, I'm loading again for a float. And this one down here, this one that comes off of it, I need to bring my shade all the way to the edge there. I'm going to shade here so it's like a back-to-back float right there. And then I'm going to come down the edge and I'm going to tilt my brush up and just pull it. So you can do it this way, bring it towards you and tilt it up, or do it this way, you're still bringing it towards you and tilting it up. Your choice. Okay, I'm going to be up on the tip because this is a very pretty narrow limb here, and bring it down to this. But this is connected, so it's gonna be dark right here, right next to it, where it has a little bit of a shadow. And again, out here, tilt my brush and get a little bit out there. Okay, and this branch is on this side. And this one I want to come into this one as well, so I'm going to shade it right here where it would come into the branch and have a little bit of a shadow. And this one's going to be on top. So we go up to it, kind of go around it a little bit, bring it, give it enough room to be on top. Just don't come straight across. If you come straight across, it makes it underneath the branch, but now it looks like it's coming like out of the middle or this, you know, the side instead of the back of the branch. Okay, let's do this one here. Nice wide float. This one's going to be the same. It's going to be like that one where it's on top here. So I'm going to give it some shape. That's the shadow area next to the branch. Okay, we'll go along here. We'll come back and do all that edge right there where it looks like it's pushed under. Ooh, too much paint. For now we just want to do these bottom edges. We'll come back and do those others. And this one needs a little bit more on it. Okay, I'll probably come back and darken this just a little bit. I might bring out some soft black to slightly darken this. Okay, so where this limb is over this one, we need to put a float on each side of it. Touch that back with my finger just a little bit. That kind of got carried away. This one here. Okay, so this one I made behind. This one really could have been on top. But we'll just leave it. I'll just leave it. Creative license. So just any of these branches that are connecting somewhere, we kind of want where they're connecting to be a little darker. Just put a little bit of dark paint right where they connect. Don't want to forget that one out there. Let's get all these up here first. If you're using a wide brush like me and it gets a little carried away with where the paint's going, just take the water edge of your brush and clean that up. Make this one a little bit darker here. I might just come back with another layer of asphaltum so I can keep it more on the reddish brown color. Okay, so it should be dry enough, especially all these main parts, to go ahead and put a second float of asphaltum on here. That's going to look a lot better than adding soft black to this. Add water to your brush as you need to. Keep that paint. We have to keep our paint moist or it's not going to move down the painting for us. It's just going to sit there and be thick and globby and terrible. That one's coming across, so I'm going to have to repaint that. And we still have our highlights to add on here, so that's really going to make some of this pop. Now, this is going to be a glass ornament, so this branch that is coming behind, I'm actually going to take some of my Hauser Dark Green. I'm going to see if this will work. I'm not sure if it will even work. A tiny bit of it. Take my branch color with a little green because I want to mute that branch color down, and I'm just mixing it in there, and I want to bring this branch across here, and we can bring some stuff off of it if we want to. That's going to be behind the ornament back here, okay? The ornament is glass, it's kind of see-through, so if I have a branch coming off on this side, I'm going to have to see some of that branch going through it. And then I have this one here, and I'm just going to take it that way across it. Going to adjust this one. I want it to be on top. I want these to be on top instead of behind. And I think that's it. These two here, I probably won't even see these after we get pine needles on, but just in case, we're going to add some shading there, a little bit of separation. I've just got my round brush now, so this is making it easier on some of these thinner limbs to get some of this shading on the edge of it. One up here. Okay, I think we got most of those covered pretty good. So that was a double float. We floated it, and by the time we got through all the branches, it was dry. So then we floated it again with asphaltum. So now we're going to add some highlight on here. Okay, I'm going to mix equal amounts of sable brown and toffee and create a highlight here with this color. Just go along the top edges. Don't have to do solid line. A hit and miss is always more effective and better. See, I kind of skipped a place there. This one kind of got outlined. Let me clean that up with a damp brush. Some of these thinner branches will come back with our round brush and do it. Wide angle out so you can see the whole thing. Terrible about getting you off camera when I zoom in. I'll bring some of that highlight into the center right there. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. I need a little bit more water. Equal mix. Sable brown, toffee. I think I'll add just a tiny bit more toffee to it. Wipe that off, that's way too much paint. If the equal mix fades too much down in there, then just add a small amount of the toffee. Okay, so you'll want to come in here with a round brush and do these thinner ones. I'm going to stay with this brush just because I am good at staying up on the tip of this and just skimming across things. But if you need a smaller brush to get on those branches, please use a smaller brush so that you don't end up not liking your project and getting frustrated with it. Okay, so that's a first highlight on there. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to add a second highlight on here, and I'll do less of a highlight, which means I won't hit the full length of the area that I just highlighted. So it will be a smaller area. Let me show you. Okay, so I'm going to take just the toffee this time. And I'm going to create just some bright little places. Instead of everything being bright, I don't want it all to be bright. So just a little bit here and there. This will take just a few seconds to do, because you're not doing everything. You're just doing a few spots, because this is pretty bright on its own. And then if we need to, we can come back in and brighten it more. Okay, so that was just a quick little bright highlight on there. Now if you're happy with how it looks, You don't have to do anything else to your tree limb. But I always like to make a wash of my base color. And I want it very sheer. I want, it's mostly water. Just a tiny, tiny little bit of paint in there to tint it. Touch my paper towel, and then I'm just going to brush some of this wash onto my tree limb. This is especially good if you got your highlights a little bit brighter than you want. It will take them down, but it won't take the highlights away. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I think that looks good enough. So just a quick little wash on there. Alright, now we're ready to add some pine needles on here. I'm going to be using a round brush, and I'm going to start with my Hauser dark green that I painted my background with, and then we're going to build up from there. So let me put a little bit of this out. You're going to want your paint to be inky consistency. So you want to take some water and add it to your paint and mix it in. I just pull out a little bit of paint at a time. When I've used up this puddle, then I go get some more water and thin some more down. Okay, so we've got it nice and thin. I'm going to wash my brush out because it was really full. Alright, now you can use a detail liner, or you can use a round brush, your choice. Okay, I went ahead and drew where I was going to put pine needles on here because I thought it would be more helpful for you, because I'm just going to show you how to do 2 or 3 of them to complete them, and then I'll go off camera and finish all of the others because there's a lot of pine needles on here. So you'll want to put your pattern on here, or if you've drawn different limbs, decide where you want some pine needles. And I do want a few coming off back here. These will be very faded and mute back behind. I used my Lonna's Favorite chalk pencil. It comes with pink, green, and white lead, and I have 3 of them, and I always keep one with white, one with pink, and one with pink, one with green lead. And I used the green lead on this one so that it would be there. That way I don't have to change my lead out when I want to draw something with a different color. So when I draw my berries in, I'll probably draw with the pink one so that I know where they're going to be. I mean, the pink will be where it needs to be. So we're going to start with our Hauser dark green, and you want some of these to come over your limbs. Don't keep them all out there by themselves. It needs to have some movement. So there's going to be some that are up over a branch, like this one's coming over this branch. This one is kind of coming over that one. And you know, here we've got this one coming over, and these 2 are coming over this one. So just be aware of how you're putting them on there. And I did most of them where one of my branch ends were. So I'm just going to pull some strokes out with this color. I'm going to do about 3 of them. And these are pretty quick pine needles. I don't want us to stress out about our pine needles. I want to see a little bit of that brown peeking through, so don't cover that up completely. Okay, so I'll do these 3 right here. And this is our Hauser dark green. We just need a dark undercover here. And just pull some stuff out. Some of it's going to fade into the background. We won't even see, but when we put our next color on, it'll start popping, and we'll have a couple of colors that will go on each layer. So that was our Hauser dark green. So now we're going to go with leaf green, which is what we stippled in the background. And if this is too bright for you, you can mix a little bit of your Hauser Dark Green in with it to tone it just a little bit. I happen to love this color. It's one of my, I think it is my very favorite color. So just pull some strokes out. We're not going to be too technical with our pine needles on this one. Leaf green, mix a little bit of Hauser Dark Green if you want to, okay? Okay, so we've got 3 of them in right there. We're going to add our next color, which is going to be this golden yellow is really going to brighten these up. So this color will definitely be mixed with the leaf green. Because it is a pretty bright color, but I want to make a brighter green to put on top of here. So I'm going to take some of this yellow and some of my leaf green and make this brighter green here. It's probably about equal amounts, but just make a bright green that you're happy with, okay? There's no perfect mixing there. You want to do less and less of each layer. Don't let your other layers get, you know, covered up. Okay, and one other color that I want to put in here, and we're just going to do 2 or 3 strokes of this. And it is Victorian blue. Not really. Yeah, I think I'll try this. I'm not sure this was the color I wanted to go with, but I'll give it a shot because I was originally going to paint my background a blue color, but I changed my mind at the last minute. So I want to put a few, just a few little blue strokes in here. And it's just going to change this so much. And if you feel like you lost any of your other colors in there, then come back and add some of those in. Now, normally we have to go in and adjust a vein down the center, but because I put them all, except for a couple of them, I'll go in and paint a thing for them, but we put them all, connected them all to a branch. We don't have to do that because that's how I wanted them to look. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera and finish all of the rest of these. Okay, and then we are going to come back and I'm going to show you how to do the ones behind our glass ornament here. I think I'm going to put one more color on here. That's just going to be straight yellow. I feel like my my needles are fading into the background more than I want them to. And really just a couple, like you did that blue, just a couple, don't get carried away. Okay. Okay, I came back to show you something. I mixed a little bit of asphaltum in with my Hauser Dark Green, and that made my Hauser Dark Green a little bit more opaque, and it didn't blend into the background quite so much, and I think I'm going to like that a lot better. So you can choose to do that or not. I'm going to do the rest of them with that mix of Hauser Dark Green and asphaltum. I did a pretty close to 1-to-1 mix, but just make a nice darker green. Make the green more opaque, and it looks almost brown. It's just a super dark green. Let me show you what it looks like. So right there it is. It's green. It's like this dark army green. I know in the shot it probably looks brown, but it is a dark, dark green. Okay? Okay, let's work on the pine needles back here. I want them to be more subtle, so we're going to take the Hauser Dark Green and the leaf green and mix them together. And I got too much water. Need more paint. A little bit more Hauser Dark Green in there. And we're just going to stroke these in We want them to be light. I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of lighter color, not much. And maybe just a tiny bit of blue. Okay, so we'll know that they're there. We just won't see a lot of it. And, you know, as we add the glass and the snow on top of this, this will definitely fade back in there to where we may not even see any of it. I might put just a tiny bit more green. Okay, that's all I want to do. I want to keep it light. I want to keep it very subtle. Okay, I added some circles in here for some berries, and you can really go crazy with the berries. Trust me, I have gone crazy with the berries before. I had to do a little adjustment there. Okay, so trust me, you can get carried away with berries and cover this whole thing with berries so easily. So I'm going to paint a few in and see what I think. I may want to change it up. Instead of so many berries all over the place, I might want to do like a cluster of berries here and a cluster of berries here and a cluster of berries here. So I haven't quite decided exactly where my placement is going to be. So I'm going to test the waters first. I'm going to paint them in with some Tuscan red. We're going to make these pretty bright berries. I don't usually make my berries a bright red. I generally make them a orange color, which I really like. But we're going to try some red this time. So we're going to try Tuscan red, and we're going to use our small round brush that we've been using. And so I'm going to paint a little cluster in right here. So I've got one there, and one here, and I'm going to put one here, and I think I'll put one up here, and one over here. So we got 5 little berries in that little cluster right there. I'm going to do one more cluster up here, just of 3. And now I'm going to decide how I want to move around this project. Now if my paint feels like it's really going to fade down in there, and I'm going to have to apply 2 coats, that's all there is to it. Red is notorious for fading. You can add a little bit of the asphaltum with it to darken up the first layer, and that might help make it a little bit opaque, or a little bit of the Hauser dark green. Just something that's going to darken them up just a little bit. I'm not going to do that because I know I'm going to be putting quite a few on here, and I'm going to have to let them dry and come back. I mean, you're going to have to put 2 coats on no matter what. So instead of painting those there, I think I want to do a cluster back here. Of 3. And actually I might do more than that on that one. Bring one out here, and one here, one here. I'm going to make this a really big cluster of berries. I've got 6. I generally like odd numbers, so I'll put another one right here. Okay. Alright, so I am going to get the second coat on these. That one's still very wet. Those berries are so pretty. And we haven't even done anything to them yet. Okay, I'm going to put a couple here. So let's see, where else do I want to go? I want to put a nice cluster of berries here. And you can vary the size of your berries, don't make them all the same size. Back here. So I have a nice little cluster there. Because generally I just bounce around and do, you know, like 3 and 2 and 1. So I want to mix things up a little bit. I don't want to be the same all the time. And those are ginormous berries. And I'll just do 5 there. So I want the eye to follow, so I'm going to have to put something up here. So I've got 3 here. I think I'll go ahead and leave those 3. And then after I get all of my base coat of my clusters in, I'm going to stand back and look at it and see if I need to add. I'm going to come in and erase the circles that I've put in here, because I feel like I'm going to need to see it without all those lines so that I can see where I need to add more. I think I'll just put couple here. I had 3 drawn there, but I think I'll just do 2. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and add the 1 here so I can get my eye to flow. I'm going to put 1 down here. I think I'm going to put 1 here, a couple out here, I think. Okay, let me erase these ones that I did not put paint on and let my eye move and see if it stops anywhere. Then I know I need to add something in there. I also want to tell you, after you paint your pine needles in and they're dry, you want to go in and erase your chalk lines. The ones, because you know, you don't ever paint over them exactly as you drew them, so you want to erase them. Make sure you brush away from your paint, or you'll have all that eraser stuff in your paint, and it'll glob up your paint and you won't be happy. Okay, I feel like I need 1 here and maybe 1 or 2 out here. Just 1. I think I'll just put 1 there. Okay, I think that looks good enough. Like I said, you can make your clusters much bigger than what I've made them. So I'm going to go off camera and get my second coats on all of my berries. Okay, let's get these berries done so we can move on to this ornament. I'm really anxious to do it. I'm going to take some Napa Red and just my little round liner. And I'm just going to line on one side of these. Normally I would shade. I think I might have to mix a little bit of asphaltum or some green in there because that's not showing up and I need it to show up. So I'm going to put some asphaltum out. And Napa Red's pretty dark, but again, reds are transparent. So I'm going to mix two asphaltum to one Napa Red. There we go. Now we can see that. And we're just going to do one side of them. Give them a little bit of shading. This is also different than I normally do my berries. But I think I'm going to really like how this is going to turn out. 1 to 2. One to two. A little bit of water in my brush. I'm not giving pressure on this when I'm doing it because I don't want it to get fat, so I'm keeping moist paint in my brush. Don't use old dried out paint, that's not going to work for you. And a little bit of water in there. It's going to help it flow. Yeah, I think I've already done those. Okay, and that darkened those up pretty nicely. I like that. Okay, I'm having a tough time deciding what I want to do for a highlight on these. I did one here. It's not super bright, and then I can come back with some white, but it's yellow with a little bit of Tuscan red. So it's like 3 yellows to 1 Tuscan red. And we'll just put a little highlight, a little dot on here, and then I can come back on just a few and dot some brighter highlights. And I think I'm not going to do all of them. I might leave one here and there without a highlight on it because I think that will just look nicer. Just a little dot. It's an orange color is what it's mixed up to be. I didn't dot them all. I haven't used white in this whole project, amazingly. So I'm just going to leave those that orange colored dot. If we want to brighten it up, we can come back with a little bit of yellow and really add some brightness on there. That's that golden yellow, and I'm not going to do them all. I'm just going to do a few. because that golden yellow is pretty doggone bright. Okay, I think that's it. We're going to call those berries done. I wanted to keep them fairly simple, not make them where they were so hard. I do want to add one detail on here though. Let me get some Hauser dark green out. I just think it makes a painting with pine needles more realistic. If you can take some dark, I'm going to mix a little bit of asphaltum with some Hauser dark green, an equal mix, or maybe just a touch more Hauser dark green, and put a little bit of shading under the berries. You can use a small angle brush to do this. This will help the berries, make the berries look like they're not floating on top of everything. I think that's going to help it look more realistic. So be sure and do that step. Don't leave that step out. I think it's important. I am using a ginormous brush here, but you'll want to go to a smaller brush for sure. And you're just doing like a C-stroke on the outside edge here, not on the red. You know, it's out on it, so they look more raised. Alright, just a couple more here. And don't forget this one down here all by itself. Okay. I think that looks a lot better. And that sets them down in there. And the leaves a little bit more. I like the way that looks. I really don't like those dots on there. I absolutely am hating them dots, so I'm going to bring my Tuscan Red in and just cover those up. We're just going to make them red. I'll have to think about a highlight. I'm not liking those dots at all. So, no dots for me. I didn't use white. I guess I could use some of that toffee color. It's a very light color. But I don't like the highlight. So we're just going to take that baby right off of there. I'll have to figure something out because I think they're going to need something. But that wasn't what they needed. So I will figure that out. Okay, let's go down here and work on this. I'm ready to work on this. Okay. Okay. I hope this is going to work out. Just a tad bit nervous how this is going to look in the end because I've never done anything like this before. The first thing I want to do is add just a few like distant trees back here. You know how they are in the winter. They don't have much going on. Just could have a few dead leaves still on them. let's put some up and around this house. I'm just using a small liner and pulling some up. And I'll erase my chalk line out of there because that looks kind of weird. I am going to put just a few, I'm just going to tap like a few leafy areas on this tree, on these trees that are growing up behind the house. And then we're going to make some pine trees over here. So I'm going to take my Hauser dark green and start my trees here, my pine trees, and I'm going to tap. I'm still just using the round brush, but I'm going to start tapping some rows and just go out bigger and bigger as I go. So I can make a little pine tree. And maybe I'll put a shorter one here. I won't tap out so big, hopefully. And let's put one over here. This is Hauser dark green. I'm going to bring this one down a little bit more, I think. Not have it even with those. And I'm going to put one here in the front of, I'm actually going to make a pretty tall one here. And have this one be behind the house as well. Then we'll do a couple over here. That will be behind the house. You can see a little bit of that one peeking over there. And then one here. Okay, we may put one more forward here, but that's going to get us started on the ornament here. Now I did bring out some white. It's cool white and warm white because we're going to have snow and we're going to make this look like glass, so I need something that I can make it look like glass. Let's go ahead and paint the topper up here. I haven't used this color anywhere yet. That just made a big mess. This is antique gold. For our topper right here. And we'll also put it on our topper up here. Get a bigger brush, that will take me forever. And I have all these little straight places here. Curve, curve, straight, curve, straight, curve. So a little bit of different look to the topper up here. We're going to end up painting this gold, but I need an undercoat for our gold. So this is the color I chose. And we will also need a hanger. It's going to go over that branch right there. And it will be this gold color as well. But I think I want the pine to be over that. I want it to just be kind of behind back there. Okay, so we're going to paint another layer on our tree here with our leaf green. And I think I'm going to mix that with some Hauser green so it's not quite so bright. I'm just going to tap on to some of these trees. Just a mix of Hauser and leaf. And we'll add some snow onto them. Okay, don't get too carried away with details on those trees. I mean, because they are just back there. Okay, see that one right there? We've almost covered it up completely. So no worries there. Okay, the windows, I'm going to paint the windows in with some, well actually let's paint the house walls first. And the walls I'm going to paint with, oh, let's see, I think I will paint them, oh, what color do we want our house to be? We could make it a red color, could make it a brown color, blue color. Let's go with toffee. I might want this color to be the roof color instead, so I may come and change this. I'm just going to paint right over the doors because in windows we'll come and add those back in. I actually think I'm going to paint the roof in with blue. You could make a church on yours if you wanted to. I'm going to paint the chimney. I'm going to mix some asphaltum in with one of my reds. It doesn't matter which red. I need a dark chimney, and that's a very wide chimney, so let me narrow that up just a little bit. Okay, the roof I'm going to paint with, what color blue do I have here? Victorian blue. And we're going to put 2 coats of everything on here. On the house. We'll be shading and highlighting our house, so don't worry too much about how it looks at the moment. Another coat of toffee on here. And I gotta fix that roof edge over here. I'll get a second coat on my roof and a second coat on my chimney. And that's with our red mix. Okay, I'm going to draw my doors, or yeah, my door and my windows on here. So I want a door here. I'm not sure which one of these is going to show up. Maybe none of them. My paint may not be completely cured. And then I want 2 windows. And you don't have to draw these on at all because you can just paint them on. So I'm going to grab a detail liner here real quick. As soon as I find it. Now this one's not a detail liner, but maybe I can get it small enough. On my chimney, I want to put just a few little lines on there if I can. Just nothing serious. Don't even think about stressing out about this. I need it to be a little bit darker. Not really sure what colors I can use here. I'm going to try some green in that. Some green with my asphaltum. Just give the illusion of some lines on there. I mean, I can't even see those because that was not a detail liner, and I'm not really sure where it's at. It's always hiding. Oh, there it is. It's always hiding behind a big fat brush, and then I can't never find it. So, I mean, you still can't even see those. So don't be stressing out about it. I'm going to take a little bit of cool white, and on the right side I'm just going to tap a little highlight on that chimney. Alright, let's paint our windows in. I want to use the bright yellow and some cool white mixed together to get a soft yellow for my windows. Try to make them the same size. If you don't make them the same size, do not even think about stressing out about it. My door I'm going to make red just because I can. My front door on my home is red. And I love my front door. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to kind of give myself some idea of where we're just going to make a snowy yard. I'm probably going to put another tree in here. I want to get some snow in here first. I want to put some snow on the trees, and then I'll add a little tree out here in the front. Let me get a smaller brush here because I want to shade on the house, and I'm going to do that with some asphaltum. We're going to go underneath the eaves. And we'll go down the left side here, and the left side here. I'll go underneath this eave. Not very straight. I was kind of playing with my mind. Okay, I'm going to outline my windows because I can't really tell that they're all lit up. So I'm going to outline them with some asphaltum. Try to keep them kind of straight if you can. I'm going to outline my door as well. I'm just using a detail liner here. Thin your paint down so it will flow for you. And I'm going to give it a little doorknob. Not that we'll probably really be able to see that detail. I'm not really going to worry too much about the detail on the roof. On my window, I'm going to take that straight golden and put it just on the left sides of my windows. And then I'm going to take some cool white, get the moisture out of my brush here, and put it on the right side. You can do this before you outline them if you want to. Put a little bit of a highlight on the front door. prefer to keep it on that right side. And we'll add a little highlight, excuse me, on the house here and here. Okay, so let's work on the roof now. And I'm going to shade on the left side of it. Let me get my bigger flat brush here so I can cover a bigger area quickly. And I'm going to use some, what have I got here? Deep Midnight Blue. And we're just going to bring that over. We'll put some underneath this eave right here. White spot on there's bugging me. I'm not really sure what that is. So let me put some paint over it. Okay, so on this side we're going to have some snow shining on it. So we're going to take some cool white and add some cool white on this side. And walk it over. Have a little bit of it kind of piled up on the top. Okay, put a little bit on this side. Just tap a little bit on there. I'm using a ginormous brush, so you might want to go to something much smaller so you don't have to stress out about that so much. I'll put a little bit of smoke coming out of the house. Just a tiny bit of white in my brush, or cool white. If you don't have cool white, you can definitely use just straight white, so don't be too stressed out about that. Okay, let's work on some of the snow here. I'm gonna take some Victorian blue and cool white and mix it together just to get a lighter blue. So it's just a 1-to-1 mix, and I've just side loaded my brush. And this tree comes down here a little bit. I'm just going to put some of this in a squiggling back and forth kind of motion. Mixing a little bit more here. All the way down. Take the water side of the brush and smooth some of it out. I definitely want to go up here, make sure I'm good next to the house and everything. We're going to add some snow in here. This is kind of the under part of the snow. Let's add a little tree out here with our Hauser and our Hauser dark green and our leaf green mixed together like we did in the back. So I'm just going to put a little tree right here. Just tap a cute little tree in right there. Grab a little bit of just the leaf green. And tap some of that on there. If it's not showing up, add a little bit of white in with your green so that it shows up. We don't need this tree to be super crazy detailed. Let's add some snow on our trees back here. You can go with cool white, snow white, warm white, whatever white that you have. Just grab some white. And we're gonna tap some snow on our trees. We'll even put a little bit back here on this tree. The one that's still got the dead leaves on it. They never all fell off for the winter. Make sure that's dry. That's a lot of snow on that little tree. Okay, let's put some snow out here. Whatever white you have is the white that I want you to use, okay? Missed this one little tree back here. Put some on it. This one right here. And a little bit in there. Not really sure I like that little spot there, but alright, here we go. We're going to side load with some whatever your white is. And we're going to give a little pile of snow here and there. We'll pile some up by the house. And pile some by this tree. And just a few little streakies of some snow going on through here. Just a wiggle and a jiggle. We might have lost our little tree there. I might have to add some green back into it. Tap a little green back in that maybe. There we go. Looks a little more like a tree now. I want to put just a little bit more white out there because I feel like it needs just a tiny bit more. I don't want to get too much because we're going to be putting, we'll just make a few more little snow piles. We got to make it look like glass, and so we're going to have to use this white to make it look like glass as well. Let me put another coat on the topper, which was that gold color, antique gold. And up here. Get my bigger brush and fill that in. Oh, I'm too close. You can't even see what I'm doing. Now you'll want to paint your edges as you do all this stuff. So I didn't paint my edges, but it makes it look so much better if you paint your edges and get everything the same. So see, I'll want to come and paint my edges gold and the edges of this green. Make my little stringy here. Second coat on it right here. Or my wire hook, I guess. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, let me wide angle out. I'm not really liking the berries, so I'm going to add another color onto our palette here. Scarlet, or you can use some Tangelo orange. I just feel like my berries were just flat. No depth to them. So I'm using a small 6 flat brush and just side loading, doing a little C-stroke on one side of them, and I will probably come back and repeat it. they were just not popping for me. So I think this is going to help them a lot. And so I'll apply 2 coats of this on here and then come back and see if I want to add a little white highlight on here. I probably will now that I've added this orangey red on here. I think that's making them look so much better. Just a little side load, doing a little C stroke here. Okay, that's looking much better. Alright, I'm going to go off camera and do a second coat. Okay, I think that scarlet helped a lot. I'm going to just highlight a couple. I'm not going to do them all, so don't get carried away with your highlighting on your berries. I think that scarlet just really made them pop though. Okay, I'm a little bit happier with those berries now. Okay, are you ready to work on the glass effect here? I'm ready to work on it. Let's zoom in. Okay, I've got a very wide brush here. Oh, my light just went out above me. It's a 14, so use whatever brush you feel comfortable with. I'm going to put out some fresh white. It can be cool white, it can be titanium white. I think even warm white would probably work. So first I'm going to take the cool white and a little bit, I'm going to pull it over here, cool white and a little bit of, tiny little bit of Victorian. Make a pale blue color here. I want to make enough to go around my ornament. Okay, we want a nice wide float, plenty of water in your brush. And we're going to go around the ornament with this float. We're going to come back with just straight white on top of this, but we want to get this bluish color on here first. Okay, so we've got our first little layer on there. A little bit of paint right there. I don't want that there. If I can erase my line now. I tried not to go over my line, but if you go over it, no big deal. Just want to get that off of there. I know where my paint is actually, because sometimes, you know, you paint up to that line and you think it's just the drawn line and it ends up being the painted line. Okay, so that's with the cool white and a little tiny bit of Victorian blue. Okay, so now we're going to go with some straight white. So I'm going to actually use warm white this time. And I'm not going to take this out as far. You want to really make sure that's dry. And we're going to go around it again. But we're not taking it all the way out like we did. Keeping it a little bit tighter against that edge. A little bit more water in my brush here. Stop and fix that light. It keeps coming on and going off. Okay, now if you want to spatter where it looks like snow inside there, you can, but we're going to be adding some like shine marks on here. So I think I want this to be a little bit more opaque out here on the edge, so I'm actually going to make that a little bit wider. I don't want it so opaque that you can't see the design in there. We still want to see all that stuff going on in there. We just want it to look like it's glass, okay? Okay, I'm going to put some fresh paint out here. And we're going to take our liner brush. Whatever white you're using, that's the white to put out. Go into your clean water. And the first thing we're going to do is outline our ornament. I think I might have to get a small round for this. We want a pretty thin line here, so don't that is way too thick. I'm going to have to come back with my brush and remove some of that. I think I kind of lost my shape out here. Removing some of that so it's not quite so thick. Okay, let's add some fun stuff on here. We're going to add some actually I'm going to go back to my detail liner here. And we're going to add some shine stuff. Come back and go across this way. And then we're going to add some sparkle on here. Just some random little dots. Still want to see all that stuff in there, so don't cover everything up. We'll put some of these sparkly things around the outside edge. Teeny tiny little dots. Don't let them get ginormous. But we're going to go all the way around it. Okay. Put a few more dots up here. Okay, and now let's make some little sparkle marks. So like, let me really get this paint thin. Got a little burr on the end of my brush, so let me try and get that off. Some of these within here you may not see as well. Let's put one down here. I think I want to put one out here. So we've got some sparkly sparkles going on there. Super cute. Super cute. I'm loving it. Loving it. Okay, let's finish out the topper here. I'm going to add some glorious gold metallic paint. On here and on our little wire thing here. Give it a little bit of sparkle. And we're also going to put it up here on our main topper up here. The glorious gold. Okay, and fill the rest of it in with it. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to float a little bit of shading back here. Some asphaltum. I haven't decided if I want to go around the whole piece with the shading or not. Let's wide angle out. I think that looks pretty good. I just feel like it needs a couple more little of these things on it. I'm going to put one up here, I think. Okay. Okay, is my gold dry? Down here I think it's dry. So let's take a little bit of asphaltum and shade on this side. That feels pretty dry. Let's see if I can. I'll walk this over. A lot of glare there. Okay, I think that might be all I'm going to do. I don't really want to highlight this side. I don't think. Let me try a little bit of warmer. I'm afraid it's going to take down too much of my gold. Well, that's not too bad. I like that. Put a little bit on this one. Let me make sure that that looks like it's behind. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. It wasn't quite dry, and darken that side a little bit with some more asphaltum. I think it looks pretty good. Pretty good. So you can see, we can just see a little bit of that limb. Even the two little pine clusters we put behind there, we can't really see. So I think I'm gonna call this one done. I think it turned out pretty darn cute. So that's all on this project, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for painting with me, everybody. Bye-bye. I'm going to add some Glorious Gold metallic paint. On here. And on our little wire thing here. Give it a little bit of sparkle. And we're also going to put it up here on our main topper up here. The Glorious Gold. Okay, and fill the rest of it in with it. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to float a little bit of shading back here. Some asphaltum. I haven't decided if I want to go around the whole piece with the shading or not. Let's wide angle out. I think that looks pretty good. I just feel like it needs a couple more little of these things on it. I'm going to put one up here, I think. Okay. Okay, is my gold dry? Down here I think it's dry. So let's take a little bit of asphaltum and shade on this side. That feels pretty dry. Let's see if I can. I'm going to walk this over. A lot of glare there. Okay, I think that might be all I'm going to do. I don't really want to highlight this side. I don't think. Let me try a little bit of warmer. I'm afraid it's going to take down too much of my gold. Well, that's not too bad. I like that. Put a little bit on this one. Let me make sure that that looks like it's behind. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. It wasn't quite dry, and darken that side a little bit with some more asphaltum. I think it looks pretty good. Alright, so I decided to come back to this piece. I want to add some snow on our branches. I just feel like that will make it more of a wintry project. So I've just got a little dome brush here. I've mixed a little light gray here to give us our first undercoat of snow, and I'm going to tap some of this snow on here and make it a little bit piled up right here and a little bit here. And you can just decide where you want your snow to be, how thick you want it to be, the shape you want it to be. But I'm going to try and pile it up in a few crooks of this branch and put some along it, and then go out to my pine out here, and I'm going to add some out on my pine, but right now I'm just kind of putting some on my branches. And you can use whatever brush you like to use for adding snow or stippling things on. That's what you should use. I have a little bit down here on this. And I think out here on my pine, for my snow, I'm going to I'll make this a little bit bigger of a pile because that's a pretty substantial branch right there. Alright, I'm just going to tap a little bit on some of my pine. I don't want to cover up all my pine needles, so I'm just going to put a little bit of like light snow is on some of it. A dusting of snow. It mostly settled onto the crooks of the branches. And this little place right here probably have some settled in. So that's kind of our little snow piles on there. And then we want to come back in and brighten that up, of course, with some white. I'll put a little bit of snow over here on this one. But I don't want my pine needles to be so covered with snow that, you know, we can no longer tell that they're pine needles. So just a little light dusting of pine needles, of snow on the pine needles, I think will help those out just a little bit. And we can always splatter some snow like it is actually snowing into the background. I hadn't thought about doing that, but could be a possibility. Okay, I'm going to wipe the excess paint off of my brush. Now you can go to a smaller brush here if you want to stipple a little bit smaller on your piece. And I'm going to go into some white now. This brush is actually a Dynasty brush. It's a number 12. It's a 200 series. It's a dome, kind of more softer dome brush. So now let's add some brightness in here. And any kind of brush that you have. Will work just fine for stippling. Just a little bit out here. I'm just lightly touching and letting the tips of the brush just leave some paint on there. Just going over all of my little areas that I put the gray paint on. I'm not covering up all that gray. I want that gray to be a little bit of a shadow on there. Come back and add more to this one. And I will probably do this a couple of times to make sure that my snow looks nice and bright. So there we've added some piles of snow along our little tree. I'm going to go in here and let me grab a, fling my brush across the place. I think I'll get my smaller little stippling brush here and just tap some in between. Not as thick, obviously. Just be a little creative with it. I'm going to brighten up some of these areas with another layer of straight white. Some of these other limbs can have a little bit of snow on them. We'll put a little bit, maybe starting to pile up around our berries. Some in between our little berries, kind of settled in there maybe. Don't cover them up, just tap a little bit, you know, kind of by them where it's settled onto them a little bit. And I know on most of my winter scenes I add my Glamour Dust Bling, so we could certainly do that on here. Let me wide angle out a little bit. So we've got some nice little snow stuff going on here. Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. I have just a small amount of paint on my brush, you know, just tapping here and there where I feel like it needs a little bit. So we got some nice snow going on there. I like that. A couple more little bright places. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good. That's really piled on there and it's settled in, and I think it's looking really good. So now your option is to spatter it if you would like to. And I do not normally spatter, but I think in this particular case I may do some spattering here. I try and cover up my ornament just a little bit. I'm not sure I want spatters everywhere on it, and I'm going to cover up my topper. So I'm going to get those covered and then we'll come back and spatter. Okay, I got my surface covered. I have my handle covered here, my topper, with just a piece of scrap paper, and then I sort of cut out a shape that resembles this shape here. Just loosely cut one out. I mean, you can take your pattern and trace it on a piece of paper and cut out the actual shape. I'm not going to worry about the topper. I'll just come back with a wet brush and take care of that. So I'm going to take my, I'm using a 1/2-inch rake brush, but you can use an old paint brush that's kind of worn out and frayed on the ends. Whatever kind of brush you like to use to spatter with. And I've added some water to my paint here. Now I want to test it by, that's pretty wet, pretty darn wet. And I'm getting paint everywhere. That's one reason why I don't like to spatter. It gets paint everywhere. I want to protect my black really well. Okay. Those are ginormous drops. I don't want that big a drop, so I'm going to get some of the paint out of my brush right here by spattering it on my palette. Now I'll come over here and start. I want those smaller drops, more like light snow. I'm just going to go around the whole piece and spatter it. And you can spatter a little bit more where maybe a pile of snow is. Okay, I'm going to take this off, and I need to spatter around this a little bit more. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm happy with how that turned out. The spattering looks pretty good. Zoom in just a little bit. The snow on the boughs, I think that snow kind of finished the piece. I was going to leave it without the snow, and then the more I looked at it, the more I felt it needed that extra wintry touch. So now we're going to call this a completed project. I'm very happy with how it looks. I hope that you had a great time painting it with me, and send me some pictures, post some pictures on Facebook so I can see your work. And thank you so much for painting with me, everyone. I appreciate every single one of you. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like. I appreciate every single one of you. So everyone, have a blessed day. I'll see you on the next one, everybody. Bye-bye.